The views and opinions expressed on this podcast, including discussions on news, politics, and current events, are solely those of the host and guests and are based on personal thoughts, experiences, and opinions. Nothing stated should be considered factual unless independently verified by the listener. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and does not provide financial, legal, medical, political, or life advice. Any actions discussed are what we would do personally, not recommendations for others. Listeners are encouraged to do their own research and consult qualified professionals before making any decisions. What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Impel Forward Podcast. I am your host, Leon, and today I am at Dame's Chicken and Waffles, located on 455. Is it East Driver? South Driver Street in Durham, North Carolina. We're going to be talking to my man, Dame. I'm glad to be here.
Pleasure to have you, man. I've been waiting on this for a long time.
Yeah, man, it's been a minute.
I appreciate your patience.
Yeah. No, I know you're a busy man.
Try to be.
Yeah. Now, I've noticed when I first came here, you have all these art, music, jazz playing.
Yeah.
What is the thought in this?
It's really the core of our whole theme. This food really began in Harlem during the Harlem Renaissance in the 1930s. And it began because of the growth of jazz music in this country at the time. So everyone knows jazz really started in Louisiana in the late 1800s, but it has quickly spread throughout the country. And the live jazz orchestras would tour the country. And when they got to Harlem at the time was the mecca for black culture in this country. So they spent a considerable amount of time in Harlem. And, those orchestras and bands might play until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning at different venues. And then when they let out, there was really no after-hours spot to speak of back then. And then some restaurants would stay open late and let concert goers come in and eat or just kind of, relax, lounge type atmosphere. One of those restaurants was called Wells Supper Club. And Wells served food, and they had the ability to let people come in and eat some of the leftovers, maybe from the night before. And then they were also ready for breakfast, so they were doing waffles. And someone had the audacity to put some leftover chicken with some fresh waffles, and it caught on. And Wells Supper Club realized they could monetize that whole concept. So our food really is just paying homage to the history of the culture of the music and the food being mutually inclusive from that time era.
Right.
So we didn't invent chicken and waffles by any stretch of the imagination.
Exactly, yeah.
We do try to put a modern perspective on it, and we do our very best to pay tribute to the roots of the food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what was life like for you before the restaurant business, before you got into this?
Oh, wow, that's an interesting question. I didn't study culinary arts in school. I have a degree in business management, and I graduated from undergrad, and I moved to this area to go work for a tech company, and I did that for about 8 years out of undergrad. I had a pretty good run, actually. I enjoyed what I did. I got to travel extensively around the world. I lived overseas as part of my duty with the company, and had a really great experience. And then real life dealt me a corporate hand, and I got laid off from my job along with thousands of other people at the time that worked for this particular company. And I had an option to either get back in the workforce or try my hand at something I always had a passion for, and that was cooking for a living. I cooked when I was in college at various restaurants, like most people work in restaurants or in there in school, just trying to make the ends meet. But I think it really began for me before that. I grew up as the child of a single parent working at home, and you know where we come from.
Yeah.
It's not always easy to make it. And so my mom had to hold it down and said, you want something before I get home, you got to figure it out. So you get tired of eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and hooking up the ramen noodles. So by the time I graduated high school at my mother's house, I was fully adept, domestically. I did my own laundry, cooked for myself, did everything independently, so forth. And I think when I got to school, that was just an extension. So I tell people sometimes I didn't choose this career; it kind of chose me. Mm-hmm. I think I have some talent and some gifts maybe, and I'm just blessed and fortunate to be able to use those to make a living. But that's what I was doing before I started in the restaurant and catering business.
Right. Now, y'all hear him say, I know where we come from. Specifically, he's talking about 2-6, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
2-6, indeed.
71st Falcon.
Indeed.
Homeboy.
The homeboy, true homeboy.
Now, what's a core belief that influenced how you lead your team here?
I think for us, the food is the product, but the people come first. In terms of our team that builds and works together, all the way down to our customers, regardless of what their background may be. It's the people that come first. So I try to lead by example as best I can, and show people how things should be done. And then once they understand it, I get out of their way and let them do their job. And hopefully they execute to the standard which we've established. And that's how it does. I think if we can make that part of our culture an essential part of what we do, then everything else tends to fall in place. The recipes are the recipes. The policies and practices are the policies and practices. But it starts with the people, and getting that buy-in and understanding from them is really where it's at. And that's probably been, as an owner, an operator, a colleague, that's probably been my biggest challenge personally, is really understanding and learning and adapting about how to communicate and educate others about what our overall vision is, and getting that buy-in from them.
Right. Now, doing my research, I seen you started with a business partner.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
You still had that same business partner?
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely. When I started the restaurant, we started the restaurant concept, is with one of my best friends. It actually happened to be my fraternity brother from college, and former housemate. We go way back. We've known each other since we were 18, 19 years old. And he also graduated from the same business school I did. We both left school, went and did corporate. And then on or about the time that I was leaving corporate, I was telling him reminding him that we had always talked about doing something entrepreneurial together. And he comes from a corporate banking background. And with what we both understood about business and finance and marketing, it made sense that we could collaborate and understood what each other's functions were. And so Randy Wadsworth is his name. He's been just as integral a part of this as I have, but he tends to stay kind of in the background. And we have an old saying amongst ourselves, I make the money, he spends the money. So we tend to stay out of each other's way in that regard, but it's a collaboration that works well for both of us, and it's brought us a long way together.
So is that the reason? Because I was like, when I'm looking at the research, I was thinking, so who decided to put Dame in the front, like Dame Chicken and Waffles?
Randy will probably tell you that he decided that. And I've heard him say specifically because I already had a name in the culinary world in Durham, that it made sense that when we transitioned, I had a catering business previously called Blue Mountain Catering. And when I transitioned over from just catering to the full service restaurant industry, we wanted to rebrand, obviously. And it made sense that because I started in this city, I was already established in this city, that we would go with my moniker because I am the force behind the food. And so he said his name sounded better than Randy's Chicken and Waffles. But no, that's my guy, man. And it just made sense at the time to do it. Yeah.
So with, let me see if I can remember correct, I've been here, Cary, Greensboro,
yeah,
the one you had downtown.
Yeah.
How hard do you think it was or is to be an entrepreneurship in the restaurant business? I know that a lot of people say it's one of the hardest businesses to get into is a restaurant.
Well, I've operated another business other than this. I will say it is very challenging. I don't know how it compares to other industries because I haven't worked in a lot of other industries. But I just know for me, it's not for everyone. Pardon the pun, but you have to have a stomach for this. It's a lot of ups and downs. It's a lot of uncertainty. It's a lot of challenges that you're gonna have to face that you have zero control over. And when you do it the way we do it, where we're heavily service oriented, that means you have to rely on other people to help you achieve your goals. And like I was alluding to earlier, And anytime you incorporate the human factor into something like this, it's a coin toss sometimes.
Oh yeah.
So it's a fair amount of stress. Early on, my kids had to make some sacrifices, and I had to make some sacrifices. I didn't get to go to all the lacrosse and basketball practices for my kids. I wasn't always able to attend certain functions because of my obligations for work. Thankfully, they were understanding. And now that they're older, I think they understand and appreciate the sacrifices that were made because it was made primarily for their behalf in a lot of ways. And they've worked in the business and seen it and so forth. So those things can take a toll on you. It's been an endeavor of love, but I've never once throughout the years thought twice about doing it. Like, I've always wanted to do it. And I would never turn my back on it. I may retire or slow down at some point, but I think I'll always have a hand in something like this.
Mm-hmm. Now, with starting it, did you have any naysayers saying, "No, you shouldn't do this"?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, of course. A lot of people thought I was crazy.
Oh yeah.
My mother even said, "Why are you doing this?" And my mom is a very strong supporter of me in general, but she thought I was crazy. Well, not crazy, excuse me for saying it that way, but she was very doubtful. And I think part of it was just the concept of itself, chicken and waffles. If I had said I'm gonna open a pizza parlor or an Asian restaurant or something like that, it may have had better traction. But when you say the term chicken and waffles, people who don't know what that means, they get flabbergasted. They really got us taken aback, which I thought was great because it gave us an opportunity to educate people as well. But a lot of people were just doubtful of, man, why would you do that, But I had a plan from the very beginning. I had a serious plan. I had a thought process about how to approach it. And I think humbly speaking, I think I did a really good job executing my plan out the gate because it garnered a lot of attention locally and regionally and ultimately nationally, where people start to recognize, oh, okay, this is what's happening. At the time when we started out with the concept in 2010, I can honestly say I did my research. There was really no one in the state of North Carolina specializing in chicken and waffles. Yes, people had it on their menu. It was cooked in a lot of homes, of course. But in terms of somebody saying this is what they're devoted to, I can recall maybe one restaurant out east, and I can't think of the name of it now. It might have been a little small mom and pop spot that had it. But everybody else, it was just maybe something on their menu they did occasionally. Nobody endeavored to go deep dive like we did with the concept. And that was really part of our marketing strategy from the very beginning. We said up front, we're only going to do chicken and waffles. And that's another thing that people say, are you crazy? You got to have a burger on there. You got to have this on there. And I said, no. My mindset was, if we want to crown ourselves kings in this space, then we need to take over the space, create the lane, and then defy anybody else from challenging it, which, is just purely a battle mentality in business. And so that's how we approached it. For the first 2 years we were open, we sold 10 entrees, and they were all chicken and waffles, and that was it. And so if you said chicken and waffles, the first thing that popped to your mind, oh, Dames. Even if you've never been there, even if you've never tried it, even if you like somebody else's waffles, chicken and waffles better than ours, we're still part of the conversation. And that's really how we tackled the whole branding initiative and marketing initiative from the very beginning. We're only going to do this no matter what anybody else says.
So how has it been as far as having a partner in this? That's another thing. Once again, sometimes you hear people say partnership is bad. Partnership can cause a lot of conflict. Have y'all been on the same page for the most part?
No. No. But I think in our case, that is what makes us successful. In our relationship, respect comes first. So I respect his responsibilities. He respects mine, and we collaborate extensively on most of the things we do. But when he comes to me and says, this is what our need is, this is what our requirement is going to be, then it's my responsibility to get in line and try to follow suit to meet that goal. When I tell him I need to do this, I'm going to do that, this is what I'm trying to achieve, then he's going to support me in my endeavor as well. I've had failed business relationships in the past in other entities I've approached. And it was primarily because I think maybe the partners involved, and maybe to me, including myself, didn't have the same appreciation for the partner's capabilities as we did our own. And so sometimes if you don't appreciate what your partner's doing, you tend to lean into their space, and now people become territorial, or now people become aloof about what they're doing because they say, oh, you got it, go ahead and do it. And that doesn't always serve the partnership well. In our case, again, it started with respect first and foremost, and it still has that same element. We both value and appreciate what each other does. I would not be successful without him. He would not be successful without me. And once you come to that understanding, it's just like any other marriage or any other partnership. That's how we approach it.
Now, I named the other areas you had the restaurants in, and you recently closed them. Mm-hmm. What was the decision behind all that?
A couple of different reasons. In the Cary situation, that was our franchise store, one of our franchise store. I didn't own that store at all. I licensed that agreement. We licensed that store to some another entity, and we had some challenges with our relationship in that situation. The store was a tremendous store. It served the community very well. It was very well received and had a great run. But when the contract ended, we opted not to renew that contract because we knew at some point we wanted to pivot in a new direction, and that was the best time for us to exit at that point. Greensboro, a little bit different scenario. Greensboro is a store that we did own. That was our second location. I went to school in Greensboro, college in Greensboro. That's kind of where I became a man. So it was an easy choice to open up that store in 2012. And we had a phenomenal experience there for 14 years, almost 14 years. It was my home away from home. And I adore the city. I love the city. A lot of passion for Greensboro in and of itself. When we opened that store, it was similar to how we did things in Durham initially, in the fact that there was not a lot happening in that particular vicinity, in that market. So we became a beacon for people in that area, in that local community, and people were traveling from all over the city to come to where we were in downtown. As the city began to evolve, more and more development happened away from downtown Greensboro, on the northern and the western sides of town. And I think that a large part of that vacuumed a lot of the business and traffic out of where we were in Greensboro, and there was less and less focus on downtown. So I think as an entity, downtown Greensboro has got some challenges ahead of it. I think they're addressing a lot of those challenges, but at the time it just made sense for us to go ahead and bow out of that market because the business just was not as there as it once was. And that's sometimes a hard pill to swallow in business. You think you do a great job, you think you've done everything you're supposed to, and you plant the seeds, you fertilize the land, and if it doesn't rain, it's not going to grow. Right. And so it stopped raining in Greensboro sometimes for us, and so we had to make the decision to pull out. I think at some point we're probably going to revisit Greensboro down the line. We're certainly going to revisit another space and opportunity in this market, in the Triangle market as well. It'll be some time, but right now my whole and sole focus is on rebranding and rebuilding from Durham. We have a new space here that we're in now. We've been here for a few months, and this is our base now, and this will continue to be where we grow and gather our strength from.
Right. Somebody got a question for you over here.
I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
So as you were talking about Greensboro, which was kind of like your flagship, location, right? And I saw a reel, I think the guy, Tim Sharpshire.
Yes.
I saw you on there.
Yeah.
But I read the comments, and just to see the outpour of the community support, and then after that, I saw so many people like traveling, to this location, and you were engaging with them. Like, how did that make you feel? Like, you closed that location, but you still had so much support that actually came out of Greensboro and other areas to this location, which is, booming. And Tim is out of Fayetteville too, right? So all y'all Fayetteville guys got some good things going on. But I saw what came out of that when he did that small skit.
I'm still very humbled by it. And it's been 2 months now since we closed that store. I knew the response would be strong and highly favorable. I had no idea that it was going to, as I say, go viral the way it did. That was not even our goal. We were more focused on how do we transition and make sure we have all our bases covered for the staff that we had to let go, And to tie off on our business matters, we weren't even thinking about, how do we position it in the market? We probably should have, because I think in less than a week we had 1.5 million views on social media, 500,000 likes on social media, which was crazy. And then Tim came in after we announced and did his thing. And we've worked with Tim in the past, but I think he was.
What's going on? I hope that you are enjoying this episode, but I wanted to take the time out to ask you to please subscribe to the podcast. I've noticed that a lot of people are watching but are not subscribed. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. That way you won't miss an episode when it's aired or about to air. And also make sure you go to impelforwardmerch.com. That's impelforwardmerch.com. Grab you something. Now back to the episode.
As well, because he wanted to help us pay homage to it, and the job he did was just outstanding. The man is just highly talented in many ways, and we were honored to have him come out and do that for us. But it was humbling, to answer your question, and it just reminded me of the power of the brand, and it just reminded me, say, listen, you had to pivot, you had to make some changes. It's not a failure, and I think that's where sometimes people misunderstand maybe how business works. But my mother said it best: God will open new doors, and He has already. He did before we even shut the store down, and so that's the path I'm going to continue to follow, and I think we'll be fine. We've had to change and pivot at other times. You can't take away anything of our reputation that we had in Greensboro for all that time, nor can you in Cary. We had an 8-year run in Cary. That's tremendous in the restaurant industry. For an independent, single-minded restaurant to last as long as we have, with all the ups and downs and all that's evolved in the industry, I think is a testament to our brand, which goes back again to our people that work internally to make this thing happen. So I'm very happy about that.
So what I was going to ask you about the Durham location, the one you had downtown. How did that come about for you closing that? What made that decision?
Yeah, so this attraction in Durham, we started on West Main Street in 2010. We outgrew that space kind of quickly. It was a small mom and pop store. I love that building. It did a lot for me as a chef and as a business owner. But in 2018, we decided we were going to build into a new space. We had outgrown the space we had, and we couldn't expand it physically any longer because of just the way the neighbors were at the time. We couldn't operate the space. So we decided to build a brand new store. That was a learning experience. We had never built a store from scratch. We did that from a cold shell. That was a good experience. We learned a lot there. We took some bumps and bruises, but we got that open by 2019. And then lo and behold, 5 months later, COVID pops off. So within the first 2 years of opening, we never really got the benefit that we wanted of having the larger space because the dining rooms were closed. People weren't eating out in the same way they once were. Everything was really shifting towards the delivery services of the world, and those can be damaging to profitability just because of the percentage that you have to share. At least it was in most cases. And so we had to eat that pill as well. And then downtown, it began to evolve even further. And parking became a big challenge for us, as you all know. And we had a dedicated parking situation in our building at one time, but through whatever happened with the management office there, they opted not to have the dedicated retail space anymore, so we lost parking there. And then because of our proximity to Central Park, on the weekends, we would lose foot traffic because accessibility to the restaurant became more challenging as they blocked off the streets to allow for a pedestrian-friendly marketplace, which I totally understand, but it directly impacted our business. And so those things happen. And then, quite frankly, downtown has become expensive.
Yeah.
If I could share the numbers with you between what I started with on Main Street versus how I left on Foster Street, you'd be appalled. But it made sense for us to say, okay, I don't think we necessarily need to be in downtown to be successful. I think our customer base will follow us. And moving into the situation we have, I think we're expanding our customer base in many ways because we are more accessible to a larger market.
Right. So who comes up with the food names.
Oh, well, the names,
Yeah.
I will take credit for that.
You know?
I will take credit for that.
Yeah.
There's some peculiar naming and nomenclature and conventional naming that goes out the window on a lot of things. My menus are very personal to me. The things I endeavor to build and put together, they have purpose, they have meaning, they have thought behind them. I just don't put stuff on the menu to meet a trend or to satisfy, a particular, checkpoint on the list. I want everything to serve its purpose, and everything that we serve, by and large, I also would eat. So I want it to represent not only my passion for my food, but also what an experience or message I'm trying to convey. So to start off with, I told you we did those first 10 inspirations the first 2 years. That's all we did. All of the names of those entrees are still on our menu. They still exist. They haven't changed much in terms of their content. But all of those names are derived from breeds of chickens in some way or another. So you have things like the light brown leghorn, that's a tribute to a chicken. You have the dueling roosters, that's obviously a tribute to chicken. You have something a little more exotic like the orange speckled chabo. Those are all breeds of chickens, or they're characteristics of chickens that we've tried to incorporate through the naming, but we also try to reflect some facet of that in the actual dish itself. So it's levels to it. It's a little whimsical, but it's some thought that goes into that. And I'm generally responsible for the creativity side of the marketing of the food and so forth. Oddly enough, Randy, my business partner's, his wife is also a chef, Chef Beth. And when we first began the process, she was really the go-to person for the waffles. So the waffle recipes, actually Beth developed those.
Okay.
And she actually spun off or developed her own cottage business based on what she learned and grew and did spun off. And so we still work with her from time to time when we do our feature waffles and our special waffles of the month. So when you see things like the jalapeno cornbread waffle show up, the cinnamon roll waffle, the red velvet waffles, those are all creations from Chef Beth and Rue's Kitchen. So that's kind of how we've incorporated and kept it family. And I think it's a testament that we were able to grow other businesses from this one, in addition to things like people who've worked for us, who've started their own business, and as a result of their time spent with us.
So with all these recipes, different types of recipes, who trains the cooks?
That's me. Me.
You actually sit back and train them?
I'm in the kitchen every day still. Okay. Sometimes they try to kick me out the kitchen, but I stand my ground most of the time. But no, I enjoy, and it brings me pleasure to work with people and show them how to create something, and then allow them to do it on their own and see their reward for themselves and their fulfillment and how they can do it. So we have recipe books, and we have recipes documented that people have to learn, but it's really the hands-on effect. You can be as descriptive as you want to in a recipe, but most of the times people learn from experience and putting their hands on things. And so I'll watch someone, I'll show them how to do it. I'll show them again how to do it. I ask them if they got it. They say yes. Okay, now it's your turn. And then I'll sit there and guide them. I'll let them go through the whole process until they think they have it completed, and then we'll assess it. And then I'll go back and say, this is what you should have done differently, and let them learn and let them grow. I don't think people like to be micromanaged. I don't mind micromanaging, but I don't think that's what most people like. So again, I want you to learn it at a quick pace, but at a pace that you feel comfortable with, so that once I leave away from you, now you can be confident that you can handle that on your own, and I can go focus on something else myself.
Right. So do you have an idea what's the fan favorite?
That's a good question, Leon. I think it has evolved over time. I could tell you, I think some of the reasons some things are more popular, we have an item called What a Classy Hen on the menu, and that's a fried chicken cutlet with a classic waffle, vanilla almond schmear, and comes with a side item. I tell first timers, if you've never had chicken and waffles and you don't know where to begin, start there. And the reason being is because it's boneless chicken, you can cut that up, eat it on the fork at the same time with your waffle, your schmear, your hot sauce, your syrup, whatever you want to put on, and you can get all that on one bite. And so you get the whole experience. You get the sweet, the savory, the spiciness, the saltiness, the different textural feels. You get all that at one time, and I think that's what is most satisfying and appealing to people. You still have people who come in here and tell me, I don't want my chicken touching my waffle. Yeah. I'll eat my chicken first. I'll eat my waffle like dessert, which is great. I know a lot of people do that. However you need to do it, just do it. That's what I say. But that's always been popular. Outside of chicken and waffles, I think our shrimp and grits is amazing. It's the most popular item that we sell that's not chicken and waffles. And I spent a lot of time working on that recipe from the very beginning, and I think I hit the mark with it pretty well. I think it helps that we have a tremendous grits recipe. I was surprised at how much people don't pay attention to grits. Mm-hmm. They kind of treat it like white rice. And I'm like, nah, man, it's a lot you can do with grits. It's a lot you can do with grits. In fact, on our new menu, we've added 3 new grit entrees that are really taking off well. But the combination of the grits with the shrimp, it's just so comforting, man. Mm-hmm. You know, I grew up, my mother's from the South, and so grits were part of our daily routine. I used to hate grits growing up, but I would do things like, take the sausage, the eggs, the cheese, and mix it all together with the ketchup. That's the only way I could eat grits growing up. Right. And then that kind of evolved into, oh, wow, how can I do this on an actual recipe and the menu with various proteins and various ingredients? And that's how the shrimp and grits came to be. And it's actually named after my youngest daughter. Mm-hmm. So Mimi's Sassy Shrimp and Grits is a tribute to my youngest daughter, Camille, who I affectionately call Mimi. And as a child, she was a little sassy, mm-hmm. She was a little spicy, but she was always very warm-hearted. And she loved shrimp. And so that's how that name came about as well.
Now, come on, man, you got to tell us the secret. You've been dipping in your mama recipes.
No, man, surprisingly enough, I think my mother would tell you that she doesn't see any of her work reflected on my menus. Yeah? I would have to probably pay her a royalty if it was. She's a shrewd businesswoman in her own right. But I think my appreciation for cooking and just, seeing my mother work in the kitchen and just work as a woman, as a single woman at the time, taught me so much just about being disciplined and consistent in whatever you do, and that carried over to cooking. So although I'm inspired by my childhood and spending summers down in the country, as we say, nothing that we do per se is anything that my mom used to prepare. I think she likes my food, which is a great tribute. I think I'm happy to say that. She still will come and get her chicken wings and collard greens, and she'll eat my grits, which is a big, big thing for her because she does not eat everybody's grits, right. But she'll eat the grits. But no, they're not all her recipes. My great-grandmother was a tremendous cook, and on my father's side, my family is very diverse. They hail from Louisiana as well as Mexico, and so I think it's just in my blood. Mm-hmm. It's really in my DNA that I would have certain capabilities and know how to put certain flavors together and certain profiles together.
Right. Now, you just mentioned your father. It made me think a lot of times when I have a conversation with males, we mostly talk about our mothers and our fathers here and there.
Sure.
So did you grow up around them? Did you know him? Or
no. Oddly enough, man, I didn't meet my father until about 10 years ago for the first time. And it was my oldest daughter who made that happen, believe it or not. At the time, my daughter was 10, 11 years old, and she was just really eager to learn more about her heritage and her family. She knew her mother's side of the family very well. On my side, it was my mom. I didn't have any siblings that I knew of, and we had a very small clan, so to speak. So as she got older, she was just very curious as to, why do I look like this, and where does my family come from? And I told her, I said, you know what, I'm gonna try to find out. I had really kind of given less thought as I got older to trying to find my father or anything like that. I think by the time I was about 15 or 16, I was the man of the house in my mom's house. At least I thought I was. She would argue with that, but I never had that longing anymore. And I applaud my mother for never really spreading ill will or bad mouthing my father at all. She was never bitter about how their separation happened, but it happened when I was an infant, so I knew nothing of my father. So I told my daughter I'd try to find out, and my parents married and got met in New York City, and so I still have family on my mother's side in New York City, And so one weekend, Mike, who you know, and I went to New York. We linked up with my family in New York City. I got a list of names and addresses where I did research and tracked down where he possibly could be, and I went and knocked on doors for 2 days, and to no avail. I was very frustrated. I came back home. I told my daughter, look, I went to New York. I tried to find my father, and I couldn't find him, and I'm very sorry. I was really hurt by that myself, that I couldn't do anything to help my child. She looked me dead in my face and said, don't worry, I'll help you find him. And I didn't think anything else about it. I said, okay, she's taking it, fairly well. She's okay. And then a month later, she came to me. She said, Dad, I saw this thing on TV called Ancestry DNA. Can we get some kits? And I was a non-believer at the time.
Right.
I was like, nah, I don't believe in all that. I ain't, no sir.
Right.
But she's like, let's just try it. So we bought 2 kits for Christmas that year. That was part of her Christmas package. And we sent our samples back independently. And when they came back, I was her match and she was mine, so I knew it worked. I knew it was real science. And what it also gave me when I got my results back was a list of all the different people who had taken that test in their database that I matched with, from child-parent relationship all the way down to like 5th, 6th cousin. And so after my daughter's name, I had a list of cousins who I'd never heard of. 1st, 2nd, 3rd cousins, people I'd never heard of. So I said, wow, this is interesting. I'm gonna dig deeper. So I started emailing people, hey, this is who I am. I'm trying to find my family. I have no idea how we're related, but this says we're related. And long story short, someone hit me back, said that they didn't know who my father was, but they would ask their mother. That mother that they asked turned out to be my father's sister.
Oh.
And they had disconnected in their life from a series of things that had changed. And ultimately, I found my way not only to my father, but to a grandmother I never knew, who's still living, who's 95 years old and has a very vibrant life in San Antonio, Texas, to aunts and uncles whom I never knew, to 4 brothers and a sister I never knew I had. So overnight, I went from being an only child to the 2nd oldest of 6 children, and a beautiful stepmother who I have grown and loved for the better part of 10 years. So that's how it all happened for me. So my dad and I now have a very great relationship. We went through the whole, blame game or whatever. We got past all of that. He's a very honorable man, someone I'm proud to say I come from. And it's amazing how strong the DNA is, because our thought processes are very similar. Our mindsets are very similar in a lot of ways. And he had no hand in raising me. Right. So it's just amazing how all those things have come to pass since then. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, because a long time, I like to drive and ride and just think my favorite food is pizza. And one day, me and my dad was having a conversation. He left when I was younger, and he told me that pizza was his favorite food, and he liked to drive and just think.
That's it. It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing, man. Yeah. He's a great man, and I'm happy to. I thank my daughter, a 12-year-old child. She really was my angel in that sense, because had she not really encouraged me to do so, I never would have done it.
Right.
And she brought together a 12-year-old child, literally brought together multiple generations of people who didn't know each other or hadn't seen each other in 30 or 40 years. It's an amazing, amazing story. So I think, her capabilities are amazing, and it's just going to lead to greater and greater things in her life. But she's my angel for sure.
Right. Just a couple more questions before we go. Who has been your mentor in the restaurant business, or a mentor period? Do you have any mentors?
Oh man, I do. I've had the benefit of working with some great chefs locally. Before I started this restaurant, I had a catering business. I had worked in other restaurants, but never from the perspective of I want to own one myself one day. So when I realized, okay, I got to put a plan together to learn how to do operations and certain things, I went back into the restaurant industry and worked for another restaurant, doing expo work and doing some inventory management for them, which gave me a skill set that I didn't possess already. And through that, I met a number of great chefs, Walter Buford, Daryl Gaffin, tremendous chefs in their own right. They were corporate at the time. Sean Holland locally, man, Sean Holland meant so much to me. When I had my catering business, Sean allowed me to sublease part of his catering business space to get me started. And it made a tremendous difference because I went from working out of my house to working in a real kitchen. And so my skill set sharpened and improved. I grew my customer base. And then now without hesitation, when it was time for me to go, Sean let me know, you've been here good enough. You can spread your wings now. Right. And that was a tremendous push. So, folks like that and just chefs that have worked with me and for us over the years, you learn. It's always a collaborative effort. Yeah, you may be in charge, but the experience that someone else has that you haven't had, you can learn from that as a chef. And so it's always been that way. And I've always been a student of the game. I knew I didn't go to culinary school, so I had that, I guess you said, deficits, if you will. But it worked in my favor because it made me always humble to the craft. It always made me eager to learn more about the craft. And I've always taken it seriously. I never really played with it. It was always going to be, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to do under my perspective. And I tell people all the time, you can put me in any kitchen, in any kind of restaurant, and within a day or two, I'm sure I'll be more than functional because I have a certain understanding about how a kitchen should work. So although I've never worked in a French restaurant, although I've never worked in a traditional African restaurant, if you put me in the place and show me the direction, I can make it go. And I think that's just a skill set that you have to have as you adapt and become a chef.
Right. So worst came to worst, but we ain't speaking that. Speaking longevity, if you had to shut down and had to go work for somebody else in their kitchen or under another restaurant, would you do that?
I think I would do whatever I need to survive. I've been through that process before.
Okay.
But once you have that entrepreneurial spirit in your veins, it's hard to shake that, man. So I'm sure I'd be plotting somewhere down the line about how I'm gonna take this experience and open up a lemonade stand or figure out how to get me a little taco truck going or something on the side. But no, I don't think it'll ever come to that for me. God, at least God, I hope not. If I stay healthy, if my mind stays clear, if I can surround myself with the right people, this brand will continue to grow and live in perpetuity, I hope. That's the goal. Right. And if I'm able to spin out some other concepts, which I have in mind, some new things I want to do down the road, I think those things will come to fruition too. But, Durham has been great to me. I think I've done a decent job of providing a good service to this community. I think the city has embraced me, even with all the things that have happened and changed and evolved in the city. We still have a tremendous base to work from. And that's what I'm going to continue to do.
All right. Yeah, the outpour for this spot right here in Dames has been great. I see it on Facebook, people talking about it all the time. As a matter of fact, when she asked you about the question about Greensboro, I seen a separate one was saying, it was an article about you closing down and moving to Driver Street.
Right.
And people saying, he closed all the restaurants. I was like, nah, he's still here on Driver Street. And, they was thankful. They hit me back. Thanks for letting me know we going there.
And I can't stress it enough. I haven't really spoken much about it today, but our customers, man, they're amazing people. They're very diverse. They're very discerning customers. They understand what good food is and what good service should be. And for the most part, they're very direct and open-minded and forward. So we get a lot of praise for the things we do. And when the feedback is critical, I'm just as attuned to what didn't go right as I am to what should. And I've said this in the past, and I don't want to get it misconstrued, but I expect us to get praises because the food and the product is solid. It's when we don't get the praises that I'm disturbed or bothered because that's an opportunity for improvement. I think getting the praise is a byproduct of what your goals were. If your goal was to put forth quality product, good product, great service, then you should get those accolades. It's when you don't, or you get that criticism or that feedback. I don't take that lightly at all.
Right.
My name is on the door literally, so I take that experience from a personal nature as well as a business perspective, and I stand behind what I say. So my goal every day is for everyone to come here and leave 100% satisfied and come back and bring somebody with them. That's how we were able to get our brand going. Word of mouth was always our best form of advertising, and hopefully that's what everybody experiences when they come to Dames and has that opportunity.
Right. So, and rounding it up, what would you leave a young and upcoming entrepreneur, specifically somebody who wants to open up a restaurant?
That's a great question. I say first, for anybody entrepreneurial, don't hesitate. You know, we talked about the YouTube channel that sat on the shelf for a long time. I had recipes and concepts that I set on my shelf for the longest time. I said, I'll get to it. But when I lost my job and I had to make them ends meet, it became a real hot priority.
Right.
I was fortunate that I was able to do what I did, how I did it, but don't hesitate. I'm not saying jump both feet into water that you can't see the bottom of, but go ahead and put your plan in effect and start with the plan. Document the plan. Understand what your target market is. Understand what problem you're solving with your product or service. Understand how you're going to finance it. Understand how you're going to get paid from it, because you're not doing this just to volunteer. The end of the game is to create revenue for some purpose. And so do those things and take them seriously, and don't hesitate to do it. I think a lot of times we either get gun shy or we take time for granted, and you don't always have that benefit of that luxury. Time is something you can never get back. Specifically in terms of a restaurant, man, I think just do your research in the marketplace. Find out who else is doing what you're doing, because nobody's that original. Everybody's doing something. It's an interpretation of something else that they've seen or done or heard. So do your research and find out what's out there, and find out how you can determine how you can make your product a differentiator. I know what it was for us. So find out what that is. If you're going to do whatever genre of food, if you will, understand what it takes to be successful in that market. And then start to realize what the costs involved are. Sometimes you'll find people who have great talent, but they maybe don't have the business acumen to put it all together, so they don't understand profit and loss. They may not understand food costs. They may not understand certain facets of the business that really are the core of what you do. You'll have people that are great business people who have mediocre recipes, but because they know how to make turn a dime into a dollar, it makes them successful as business people. So, both sides of that. Get some training, get some free training. Go do a stage for someone. Go work for someone. Go get formal training if you can. I didn't have that opportunity, but I would love to have gone and taken a formal baking class or a mise en place class. I didn't have those things. I had to learn those on my own, which was great for me. But everybody else may not be the same. But take the craft seriously. This is not something to take lightly. You are dealing with people's lives. When you put food in front of somebody, you are dealing with their life. And so take that seriously and enjoy it. Have fun. Once you hunker down, I wouldn't be doing this for as long as I have if I really thoroughly didn't enjoy what I do. The people, the artisanship, the results, the feedback we get, I appreciate all facets of it. And so if you don't have that in it, if you don't have the stomach for it, you may not survive long, and be prepared for that. But if you enjoy it and you can find your path, you'll be successful, I think.
Right. Well, there you have it. The word Impel means to take action. Impel Forward, take action. There you have it for another episode of the Impel Forward Podcast. And remember, like Dane did, seize the opportunity to grasp your dreams.